Welcome to the next lesson in our Cybersecurity Lab 2026 version, and in this video we are going to install Splunk on your Windows 11 VM. So Splunk is a powerful platform used to collect, search, analyze, and visualize machine-generated data such as logs from servers, applications, and security devices. It helps IT and security teams monitor systems, detect issues, investigate incidents, and gain insights through dashboards, alerts, and reports. Splunk is widely used for log management, security information and event management, also known as a SIEM, and operational intelligence. What we're going to do is install Splunk onto our Windows 11 VM. Now, instead of using a different Splunk server and then deploying Splunk forwarders to our different virtual machines, we're going to install it all on our Windows 11 VM. And the reason we're doing that is it's easier to set up in a lab environment that way. Additionally, the Splunk trial versions have a limit on the amount of data they can ingest, which is only 500 megabytes a day. So in order to keep under that 500 megabytes and still give you the experience of using Splunk, we're going to set up Splunk this way. And as I mentioned before, this is not the way you would normally do it in a production environment. You would have a Splunk server, and then you would deploy the Splunk forwarders to each host, who would then forward those logs to the Splunk server. Okay, on your Windows 11 machine, you open your browser, and you could paste in the URL for Splunk from the walkthrough. Now we'll go to Trials and Downloads. And we want Splunk Enterprise, so we want to start the download. Now you will need to create a Splunk account if you don't already have one. If you already have one, you can just go ahead and log in. All right, then once you've signed in, select Windows 64-bit, download now. You want the MSI file. What the MSI file is it's basically an installation file, so it will do everything you need to do to install Splunk for you. You will have to agree to some terms after carefully reading them. You can check I have read and then access the program. All right, as you can see, it's starting to download. Depending on your internet speed, it's about 1 gigabyte of space. I'll pause the video while it downloads. All right, looks like it's done downloading, and we are downloading version 10.2.0. So let's go to our downloads folder. All right, so we're just going to double click it. You want to accept the license agreement and then go ahead and select next. Now you want to create a username and password, and this is for this specific Splunk instance. I'm going to name it Elliot. So this is different than the Splunk account that you used when you downloaded Splunk earlier. Once you've done that, you can select next. And if you want a shortcut menu on the start menu, you can just keep that selected and then select next. We'll go ahead and select yes. That should start doing the install. Okay, so it's finished installing, so we can just select finish and it will launch Splunk in the browser. And now you will log in with the account that you set up when you're installing it. So we set this up with Elliot as the user and a password. Select sign in. Now to get to this, you would just type in either the IP address at port 8000, or the IP address of your virtual machine, or just type in localhost at port 8000, and that will bring you to Splunk. Now what we want to do is find some apps. So you can get them from Splunk Base. So the first one is the Splunk add-on for Sysmon. So follow that URL that's in the walkthrough, select login to download. And this is where you will log in with your Splunk account that you created when you downloaded Splunk Enterprise. So now you go ahead and select download, agree to the conditions, select OK. What we can do now, when we open the window, we see our Splunk add-on for Sysmon. So let's go back to Splunk. We're going to go Apps, Manage Apps. We're going to select Install App from File. And we see the supported package, so we just need to browse to our Downloads folder. Select and select Open. And then select Upload. And then it's been successfully installed. So now that we have the Sysmon app installed, let's go ahead and download and install the Windows add-on. So just in this search box, just type in Windows and hit return, and there you see Splunk add-on for Microsoft Windows. That's the one we want, so we'd select it. And then select download. Okay, so now that that's downloaded, what we can do is do the same process again. So go back to Splunk. So then go to Apps, drop down to Manage Apps, and go Install App from File, browse, and we're just going back to our Downloads folder again. This time we're selecting the Splunk add-on for Microsoft Windows. Select Open and then Upload. What I want to point out is those are .tgz files, which are compressed, but you don't need to decompress them. Just go ahead and Splunk will upload them as you see there. And we are successful. So we've done two add-ons. We put the Sysmon add-on and the Windows add-on to Splunk, and that's all we'll do right now. We may add some later in the specific Splunk labs, but that's all the things we need to add to Splunk at this time. Okay, so now what we want to do is to ingest the logs, and the way we'll do that is we'll go over to Settings, and then under Data, select Data Inputs. And from the local inputs, we're going down, not the first one, but the second one that says Remote Event Log Collections. We'll select that. And this shows the logs that will be ingested into Splunk. We do see Sysmon is there and some other Windows event logs. So we should be good to go on our log ingestion. So what we want to do when we're ready to start to ingest logs is just select Enable. Right now it is disabled. And the reason we want to keep it at disabled, unless if we're using it, is we are using the trial version of Splunk. And the trial version has a 500 megabyte throughput limit per every 24 hours. So if you go over that 500 megabytes in consecutive days, then they will disable your trial account. So just to keep it under that, we will only use we will only enable Splunk when we're using it for an exercise. Now, I will demonstrate to make sure that everything we've done so far is working. So I'm going to enable it. So now it is enabled and it should be ingesting logs, but we will test that by bringing up the command line. And I'm just going to run a simple IP config command. Now, if we go to Splunk to the search and reporting app, and I'm just doing a really quick, simple search just for IP config. So typically you'll want to put the index and different things to limit your search in Splunk, but I'm just doing a search for IP config, and the time range is set for the last 24 hours. When I hit enter, you see we get one event, and that was the event that we just did. And as we look down at the event type or the event code, we see it's one, and that event code, if we look at the event description, is process creation, and that is a sysmon event, and process creation is just exactly what it sounds like, and IP config is a process. But if this is all we'll look at for Splunk right now. We just demonstrated that it's working, and then when we get into the labs, we'll cover more into Splunk if you haven't used Splunk before.